What do you say, everybody? And welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel, a live show right now as we are going to talk about this trade deadline. What do you think? Couple guys yesterday, couple guys today. We didn't get the big-time impact players that we thought that the Cubs were going to try to get, the Eugenio Suarez's, the Merrill Kellys, the Shane Biebers. They didn't get any of those guys. They did get some pieces that could help them, including Taylor Rogers and Willie Castro just recently, and Andrew Kittredge yesterday coming to the Cubs, and Mike Soroka. So those are the Cubs trade pieces. I'm going to bring on there and decide to talk to me about this. But my initial reaction is I'm glad they didn't trade Owen Casey. I just thought that, honestly, unless you're going to sign Tucker and they don't know, somebody may give him 13 years. That's your insurance policy. And I think we're going to see guys like he and Moises Ballesteros, who teams were looking at him really hard. Comes in, has an impact hit against the Brewers. They didn't want to trade him. There were rumors that he was going to go. I'm surprised they didn't trade Jackson Wiggins, but I think Jackson Wiggins could help this team right now out of the bullpen, in the big leagues, and I think there's people in the organization that feel like he's going to be contending for the starting rotation next year. Maybe they didn't feel like they were getting the return back to give up a prospect of that nature, but it takes giving up players to get players. They didn't give up any of their guys in the top 5 prospect list. I'm kind of torn on that. It depends on what the return is, and obviously they didn't feel like they were able to match what some other teams were willing to give up at the deadline to make that much, to give up that type of talent. And we're seeing the Padres were super active. The Yankees are always active. Toronto, but their front office kind of rumored to be in the same deal the Cubs were at the beginning of the year. They went all in, and the Cubs kind of with some pieces here and there, but, not the type of trade deadline that we thought we were going to have. So you guys get in the I know. And look, some of you guys are like, prospect clutching is so weird. I love that, Thomas. Thank you. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments section. Yeah, but look, prospects aren't a guarantee, but at the same time, you don't want to be the team that gives up Mackenzie Gore or Pete Crow Armstrong or, any of those type of players. At the same time, the odds tell you that most of the guys aren't going to really pan out to be superstars, but it's definitely a risk that you have to take. And how many of you guys feel like this was really a World Series contending team where you go all in, right? Like Jim says, I agree here. I think that the Cubs got a bit better, but I watch them play sometimes and I'm thinking to myself, is this a team that you feel like is going to run through the playoffs? Now, if they get hot 2-week stretch, yeah, that could happen. But I feel like, hey, it's going to take catching lightning in a bottle for these guys to be able to run through the teams you're going to have to beat to get to the World Series and win it. And we've seen it happen before. But, like I said, it's one of those things where you're not feeling super comfortable about it. You feel like it could happen, but you're not totally sure, like maybe if you were a Dodgers fan. So let me bring on there, and he and I get together and talk about this stuff a lot. We've been messaging all day about the trade deadline, and there you are. And kind of just like our thoughts on that. First off, great to talk to you again. You guys know Naren from the comment section, part of the Cubs Baseball Channel. And look, if you're hanging for the first time, make sure that you like and subscribe. Thank you for being part of what we're doing here. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, and you guys, I love you so much for being a part of this. It's been a tough week too, with the passing of my friend and all of our legendary idol Cub, man, Ryne Sandberg. I can't even think of enough adjectives to tell you what a wonderful guy he was and how special he was to our organization. So with that said, I'm excited to see the Cubs all wear 23 on Saturday. I'm going to wear my Rhino jersey. And it just kind of led to this. I felt like we had a lot of momentum going, and then Jed gets signed, and I thought that was, to me, an indicator that you might not see the fireworks that we were expecting. And then, I'm not underwhelmed, but this doesn't blow me away, Naren. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple moves we got, Soroka and Castro, are definitely good moves. I think they kind of round out the current roster, but they're not difference makers in totality of what they got, right? So they didn't get another starter that could pitch game 3. They didn't get a closer that's proven that could go with Palencia. Ultimately, it doesn't. I think the ramifications of the deadline is they don't know if they're going to be able to sign Tucker. They wanted to keep Casey and Mo Baller to rotate with Say on right field and DH next year in case they can't keep them. Bigger picture, if they can't keep them, like would they keep Hap, there's just like other, like you have to think of next year, Saya and Hap are up, the last year of their deals. So I just think there's bigger picture. I think internally in the front office are dreaming about Casey, Mo Baller, and Jefferson Rojas to offset the cost of pitching that they're going to need down the line. Right. That's like kind of how I look at it. I'm a roster construction guy, so I'm always looking at things down the line. And I didn't think there was a difference maker that they think are bigger than Tyone, Assad, Wicks, Wiggins, Noland, those guys that they have. And I think they do think they have enough to beat the Brewers. I just don't think we match up with these other teams in October.
All right, let me start with this. Okay, coming into the deadline, I thought that the Cubs needed to add a starting pitcher, but I thought an impact starting pitcher, not just another guy, but a front end guy that you would say, hey, you know what, game 2 of the World Series or game 3 of the World Series, I want this guy pitching, right? So they didn't do that. I thought that the Cubs needed to get some help in the back end of the bullpen. Kitridge and Rogers, yeah, maybe. I'm not dismissing those moves. I thought they needed to get better on the bench. They did that. They might have got the best bench player out there and Willie Castro. Now I'm curious to see how this works with the lineup every day. Does that mean Shaw is going back to the minors? Is this going to be another guy released like maybe a Birdie or Turner, and then you move Shaw to the bench with, or maybe you keep Shaw at third and you got him at the bench. I don't know, but I really liked having Ballesteros there. And I think that the Cubs need to take advantage of some of these guys that they have in the minor leagues and AAA that can play like Ballesteros and move on with some of these other guys on the bench that aren't contributing. But anyway, going back to that, I give them an A on that move, making the bench better, but maybe a C on Soroka to the rotation, and then the guys in the bullpen, C+, B-. I mean, I'm looking at, Duran, and he's going to the Phillies. I'm looking at what the Toronto Blue Jays did. Look, being in first or being up there in first wasn't enough. They went out and made some big moves. Although I don't know what you value Bieber at since he's been hurt. But all in all, I'm giving them a C+ at the deadline. What about you?
I would probably give him maybe a C-. I didn't think it was enough. I mean, what's the point of making the playoffs if you can't match up against these teams, right? Like you can get hot for a week and win these first 2 rounds because there's so few games, but in a long series, you just need more horses. The big thing for me is Horton and Boyd. I mean, are they going to last they're going to last the 6th, 7th month? I mean, I just think that, they've never done it before. And Boyd did it in 2019, but that was a long time ago. So I was hoping for some depth guys, just to give these guys a break, like bridge guys to rest them for October. Now, who knows, like Assad could be great. Tyone could be great. They could be fresh arms, but that's you're just counting on a lot. So I didn't think there was a great deadline, but this is Jed, man. People think Jed's going to change his stripes. I mean, he's a very methodical guy. I think he got Tucker to prove a point to the Ricketts. It's like, we need these star players. It costs a lot to get them, it costs a lot to keep them. And now that he's got his extension, he doesn't know what the budget's going to be next year. Is he going to let him go to 260 or 250? Who knows, right? Like, and he's probably thinking his master plan, right? So I just think that it's still incomplete in terms of their rebuild. I don't think it's done. And I think, PCA and Bush being so good this year, accelerated their timeline in terms of, performance this year. It's disappointing, honestly, the deadline. I just don't think they have enough pitching to last the 6th, 7th month.
All right, let's go to some of your comments, and we'll kind of get into this with you guys. Chad, thank you for the comment here. I don't feel like this is a World Series contending team. We're good, but we're not that good. Jed did the right thing. Next year is better. I guess you feel like if you're right on the doorstep, and it's hard to say that about a team that was number one in the power ratings a couple weeks ago, and then all the things that they do well. But it does feel like they're a little short in the starting pitching and department, and I think part of that is that they lost Justin Steele at the beginning of the season, who would have been your ace. But with that said, I kind of feel the same way. I think they're really good. I'd love to say that they remind me of the 2016 team where you're going, hey, we got to win this. We got the horses to do it. Even 2017, even 2018, right? You're just waiting on them to kind of come together. But it just feels like to me like there are some soft spots. And I'm saying that about a team that could be 20 games over 500, maybe we're nitpicking a little bit too much.
Well, I think they're a great team still. So far, I think they've got plenty to overtake the Brewers and kind of dominate the rest of the regular season. And then we'll just see. We'll just see how we line up in September. I just don't know if we're gonna have enough in the tank. But who knows, right? Assad and Wicks and a few of these other guys, and then I think you're going to see Mo Baller and Casey and Alcantara maybe on the bench with Castro. I don't think Turner's going to last the year. He'll probably get released at some point. And yeah, we'll probably be a little bit flawed, but at the same time, pretty exciting. A lot of young guys. And you can't predict the 1st October for some of these guys. The pitching's going to be a lot different. So from Jet's perspective, if I can't get Gore, I can't get Joe Ryan, I'm not giving up these guys for Gallen, who's having a bad year. I'm not giving up these guys for whatever. Eflin, who's hurt still. These other guys that are hurt still. And it's like, we'll just see how far this team can take us. I can understand both sides of it, but, as a fan, hoping for an October run, it's underwhelming.
Yeah. I wonder if, if the Cubs were in it to the end to get to land Merrill Kelly, because I was telling you, I really thought that Merrill Kelly was going to be the guy that they got to help them in that starting rotation, and he goes to Texas, and I'm like, wow, and it was surprising to me.
These other GMs, they ponied up. I looked at some of the trades. I know these names from, being on Fangraphs way too much as a human being. But I know these names, and some of the, obviously some of the prospect hype is what it is. But they gave up a lot. I mean, when you have a guy like Preller willing to make these deals, and the guy in Houston, I don't even know the GM's name. I know the owner. But when these other teams are willing to pony up, Dombrowski gave up a ton.
Right.
For Duran. I wouldn't have given up Duran for that. Duran he's got 2 years of controls left. That was a terrible deal. But I just think, when you have that,
you think that's the worst part of that. You think, they got 2 top 100 prospects.
Yeah, but who knows what Duran is now. You need somebody to replace him. They gave up Varland and Griffin Jacks as well in today's deals. So now the Twins, even if they hit on a bunch of these prospects that get sold to a new ownership, and they put some money back into the team, now you need a guy like Duran and Jacks, and Mick Abel. Who knows? The catcher's 19. And the catchers,
you're kind of skeptical. Let me say this too. You're pretty skeptical about prospects, right? And I think that's a fair statement.
I've reversed a lot on prospects. I used to be all on prospect hype, but I've seen outside of, you go through these lists, and then the time, you could be a great prospect and take 2 years in the majors before you figure it out. So to me, this year, next year are precious. You know, you got to win those years. You don't know what these guys are going to be. So to me, that's the big takeaway is that I would have wanted Merrill Kelly. I would have wanted a lot of a lot of the guys that were traded. I wanted because I thought that if the Cubs are good in October with 3 pitchers, really 6 pitchers were hot in October, you can make a run. We have a great lineup. So that's what I thought. I just think that, yeah, I like prospects, but I know the timeline on prospects is very debatable in terms of, these pitchers don't even get stretched out. So when are they going to last 7 months, right? Maybe in their 3rd year. Joe Ryne has never pitched well in the second half, and he's, a hot commodity because he's never been stretched out, every year. Some of the years he's pitched, but he hasn't been good. Some of the years he hasn't pitched at all because he's been hurt. So these guys that last 6-7 months is just very rare. You almost want a guy that was injured for a couple months because he's fresh.
Let's go through each trade and just kind of look at what the Cubs gave up and what they got back in the deals. And I guess I'll just start with Willie Castro because it's on the top of my mind right now. But they get Willie Castro from the Twins, obviously a 1-year rental guy. And they give up 2 mid-level pitching prospects. And help me out here, Naren. I know you.
Yeah, Ryan Gallagher and Sam Armstrong.
Yeah, Ryan Gallagher and Sam Armstrong. I've seen both of those guys. Armstrong, guy that can pitch. He doesn't knock your socks off, but he can get outs. And then Gallagher, I think, is better. I think he's to me.
Yeah, I've heard some good stuff about him.
Yeah, he's got really good stuff. Good. That's a hard one to give away. And I just saw him pitch a couple of days ago, and he was someone that I was looking at going, man, you know what? This is a guy who I think is going to get to the big leagues and do something. Now, it takes those type of players to get a deal done. I'm surprised that they didn't trade one of their guys to replace him, like a Triantos or Pedro Ramirez or somebody that's in their system that plays infield and could possibly be that, just because the Cubs are so thin on pitching anyway. But maybe that's not what the Twins wanted. I found that one interesting, giving up a couple of pitchers. And I think Gallagher, both guys could potentially get to the big leagues, but I think Gallagher is probably the better of the two. But I think they're both guys that can get outs.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because I don't think these lists are true. The internal lists are so different.
Right.
The private lists, the secret lists are very different than what the fans see. These lists that are done by bloggers. We're all fans, right? We're all armchair. We want to be scouts. So I don't think those lists are accurate. And Triantos might be one of those guys where the Cubs really believe in him, right? And he hasn't really put it all together yet in the minors. So, why sell low, right? So we'll see. I think that that's the big thing with that Castro traded. It's a big much, but I don't think those guys, Gallagher and Armstrong, and how long is that going to take? Another year of AA, another half season of AAA,
right?
Who knows, right? That's 2027. You can get anybody to pitch. You can get these veteran guys to pitch for $2 million until 2027.
Right. Second deal was kind of a crazy one because Taylor Rogers has been on 3 of the teams in the Cubs division. There's only 5 in the last 3 days, right? He started with the Reds, got traded to the Pirates, and then he comes to the Cubs. And his brother got traded too, which is pretty funny. And so we get one of the brothers that was traded. It's only the 3rd time in baseball history that 2 brothers got traded at the same trade deadline, right? And then so we get him, and we're giving up a guy named Ivan Brethrow. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've never seen this guy, but he's big, 6'6", 250. He was a Cubs 7th round pick in the 24 draft out of UC Santa Barbara. Wasn't like he was knocking the cover off of the ball with 4 home runs and 26 batted in and a 221 batting average. But that doesn't mean that he won't, he's still trying to figure it out in the minors, but it seems like a pretty good deal to me. Just at its face.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that Taylor Rogers is kind of guy I thought they should have got in the offseason because he was. I saw the trade. It's weird about it's one of those guys that he was a closer years ago, and then he went to the Giants, and he would pitch like in the 6th inning a lot, 6th, 7th, not really late in the games.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the Giants kind of gave him away for like half price. I would have taken him in the offseason for very little. So I prefer not to have traded a prospect for him because I think it's just a salary dump by the Pirates. They didn't want him. They kind of just took him back on the Brian Hayes deal. So yeah, I think he's fine. I think he's the kind of guy you need. I don't think Pomerantz and Presley are gonna last. They're probably gonna get cut here soon. And I think him and Kitridge are gonna be the guys that kind of fortify the bullpen to bridge the rest of the year. I don't like these trades, honestly. I don't like trading prospects for rentals, especially for in that situation. I don't think that they're great. These rental trades are great. I'd prefer to trade guys. I'd love to trade a couple prospects for guys with 2 years control.
Yeah.
You're trading 6 for maybe trading 2 guys for 1 guy. 12 years for 4 years. That or 12 years for 2 years, but 6 years for 2 months just seems like a ripoff.
Right. Here's another. This is a crazy trade, right? Cubs get Andrew Kittredge, who's playing for Baltimore, who, by the way, is in town to play the Cubs. So he had to switch hotels. He was with the Orioles, and now he's hey, we're playing the Cubs starting tomorrow. You're gonna have to go get a new hotel. And you're on the other team now, which I'm sure that's a big upgrade for him. I mean, it's going to be fun playing for a team that's, contending instead of the Orioles, who've been a big letdown. He caught it a little bit strange, to have to go from one place to the other. But this trade is right-handed reliever Andrew Kittredge, who we know from his days with the Rays and then this year Baltimore. And anyway, and the Orioles are getting Wilfred De La Cruz, who's the Cubs' number 17 prospect, pretty young 17-year-old shortstop. It was a 1-for-1 deal for a 35-year-old reliever, but I've heard good things about De La Cruz. Like, he can play, but he's young, so you don't know what's going to happen between now and then. This is a deal that front offices like to make because if they would have traded Owen Casey or Moises Ballesteros or Jackson Wiggins, those guys would have been in the big leagues this year playing. And all it takes is one of these guys to have a hit like Ballesteros did the other day against Milwaukee, where the Cubs have been struggling. He gets up with the bases loaded, and you see what he can do. He's got great hands, and he uses the entire field, and he's a tough out. And he laces a double, you unload the bases. It changes the whole thing. I mean, like on now that energy that he brought, right? I think Casey's the same way. And I could definitely see Jackson Wiggins being someone that, could potentially be helpful for the Cubs in the big leagues, now that they didn't trade him. But it's going to be years before we know what this De La Cruz guy can do. And then you got and who knows if Jed will still be in charge at that point, right? I mean, you said it. I agree with you. If they said what his contract is, we both think it's going to coincide with the contract that manager Craig Counsell has.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard the years, especially with the news of Ryne after it was announced. So I think it's going to be multi-years. It's probably like a 3 years and maybe an option or something like that to link up with Counsell. I don't think if the Cubs don't win, if the Cubs don't get to the World Series in this year or the next 3 years, I don't think Counsell is going to be around.
Right.
I don't think he's going to get another extension, with his high salary when, there's probably some manager that's being developed or as an apprentice right now that will do the job for $1.5 million or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I think that I definitely think it's
Dave Martinez, or maybe you get Dave. I mean, look, I told you guys before, I've always loved Davey Martinez. Now, I'm not surprised he won a World Series. I loved him when he was a Cub back in the day, and the bench coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be linked up. I think it's a window now. I think they see this, but you have to also look at the season. like what are they going to do with these expiring deals next year with Hap and Seiya and Nico? I think Nico is probably for sure being extended. I think they love him. I think they want him around. I think Hap will be the tough one because I think they love him, but they don't want to pay a left fielder to do something a prospect could do.
Right. Well, that's one of the biggest problems I have with the Hap no trade clause is that it really limits your ability to use your organization to fill gaps. And he's so streaky, right? I mean, it's like this and that and this and that. It's like, I don't know, like when he gets hurt, you get other people in there, they'll jumpstart the offense. And there's times where he carries the team, but there's a lot of times where he's just not a factor, and it's left field. And then you got Seiya with a no trade clause. So you're kind of crippled when it comes to being able to make moves with these guys. I mean, you can't do anything with them. You're stuck. Seiya's been great as a DH, but anyway, all right. The last deal is the Mike Soroka trade. And the Cubs gave the Nationals Ronnie Cruz, who is a young shortstop prospect, and Christian Franklin, who is an outfielder. Christian Franklin is a very good defensive left fielder. He can run. He's a spark at the top of the lineup. I don't know. I mean, it's not the same thing as Owen Casey, who hits a bunch of home runs. But this is one of those guys that you kind of go, man, this guy's he's a winner. Like, he just figures out a way to get on base and score runs, steals bags, and he's smart. So they got a pretty good player there. I don't think he was going to play for the Cubs. And part of it is that Ian Happ has the no trade clause, but part of it is that there's a bunch of guys ahead of him, including Alcantara and Casey. And then Ballesteros, even though he's not an outfielder, just another guy that that's not going to be there. And then you get Mike Soroka back, or in the deal. I'm figuring he goes into the rotation. Jamison Tyon's pitching, today or tomorrow in Iowa. He's starting to come back. Soroka, you can move him to the bullpen. Soroka's one of those players, when the Braves released him, I remember I was like, wow, this guy, he went from being like an ace to not being very good. And he's kind of come back around again. So I'm not really sure exactly what we're getting there, but he did well last year in the bullpen, and he's been pretty good as a starter this year. So I hope that's what continues.
Yeah, Soroka's kind of one of those guys that's kind of like a splits baseball savant, these secondary metrics kind of a star. If he didn't pitch maybe a few games, didn't pitch the third time through the order, he would have been a lot better. His expected ERA is a lot better. So I kind of see Soroka as someone that's probably going to take that fifth spot, move to the bullpen, could be a weapon, and he's 27. So if the Cubs tweak a few things with him and his performance improves, I could really see them trying to lock him up before free agency for like another 2-year deal or something like that, so he can get some security, or they just want to lock him, kind of like another Boyd deal. They kind of jump the market on him if they, they work with him and they think they found like a few things to improve, take his performance up, and then maybe using him differently. Because those young arms, a couple of years after the surgery or after the injury, they start to they start to really peak. So I definitely like that move because of his age, and maybe he could be a long-term fit if they tweak a few things.
All right, let's get to your questions. And again, I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. Please like and subscribe to the channel and be part of what we do here. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. I have been a Cubs fan for basically my entire life, 20 years, and then I've covered the Cubs for 20 years as well in the organization. So this is a passion for me, and I love the fact that you guys have gathered here with us on the channel, and you're enjoying talking Cubs baseball. We do it on a daily basis, and then this is a special day, the trade deadline. So we'll kind of do the same thing when other big things happen. Now, I want to get back to the comments and and just kind of throw some of these up here because you guys make some interesting points. Thomas says, weird to rent Tucker and then do this, right? And I get what he's saying there. And he's like, we went all in on that trade. And I've talked about it ad nauseum on here, that trade to me isn't just the fact that you sent your first round pick over there, who's become a young star, and Cam Smith. You sent an all-star third baseman, Isaac Paredes, who made the all-star team again. but then he's hurt. The pitcher, help me out. He was in the rotation. Wisniewski. Hayden Wisniewski.
Hurt now.
And he got hurt too, right?
TJ.
But it's also that you sold Bellinger to the Yankees with $5 million to get rid of him. It's all the players that you traded to get Paredes last deadline. And then look, it's a whole pile to get Tucker. And I get it, man. And I really felt like going into about a week ago, I thought this front office doesn't have an extension. They got it. They're going to do whatever they have to do to put a super competitive product on the field, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to basically save themselves. And then all of a sudden they get an extension, and then it feels like it was kind of like I said, I gave them a C for the trade deadline. Wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I really like Kyle Tucker. I hope he can extend it, but I just think someone's going to offer him 12 years. And I don't think the Cubs believe in it. They believe in 7 years, 8 years with an opt-out. So then he can go back in the market in a couple of years and they can get a couple prime years at a higher price. I could see that happening, but I think that someone's going to offer him 12 years and he's going to be gone. 12 years, $40 million, $480 million. You can't turn that down. Right. The Cubs will probably offer him 8 for like $45 million a year, something like that, and then give him a couple opt-outs. But I think he's going to go, and they're going to get the draft pick, and they're going to say, look, yeah, we lost Cam Smith, but we got a draft pick that's 20 spots down, and now we can use his payroll for pitching. And Michael King and Dylan Cease and all these guys are free agents, and we need 2 pitchers next year, really. And then Casey can hit in right field, and PCA is going to bat second.
Right.
And he emerged, and that's okay. We tried to keep him, but we couldn't, and we reallocated his payroll.
Well, maybe they do keep him. I mean, I don't know, I guess, but my thing was this. Look, I said it and I'll say it again. If you trade Owen Casey and you don't keep him, then you got to fire these guys because they're not planning for the future. Because I think Owen Casey could be in his own way a Pete Crow Armstrong type of guy. I mean, is he going to be Pete Crow Armstrong? No, but he has star ability. He's the type of guy that could be in the middle of your lineup doing damage for a long time. And you traded Yu Darvish to get him. You developed him. You got him to the big leagues, or at least he's right there on the verge of it. And I think that the other organizations would have loved to have had him. I talked to the scouts. They would have loved to have had him. And I think the Cubs were smart not to give him up because, and maybe it's one of those deals where he learns how to play left and Tucker plays right, and you somehow keep both of them in Hap walks. But at the end of the day, or he's a DH and you get rid of Say, I don't know. Maybe a platoon. Good managers figure out a way to use talent. And and I felt like that was an area where if you would have not had either one of them, that wouldn't have been too good. Now, Chris says, I'm okay with it to get Suarez or elite players. We would be dumping our future for rentals. And that the funny part about it is we already dumped a lot of our future for a rental. We just got the rental for 1 year instead of a couple months, right? We just talked about it with the Tucker deal. When you factor that in, it kind of makes sense that if you're trying to build a healthy organization, you would not have wanted to just go ahead and just dump your entire farm system.
I just think that the thing I don't like about this whole thing is the offseason is there to get players for free, just money. And the Cubs aren't taking advantage of that. So I think they have to live with it. They got to lie in their own, they got to lie in their own decisions and say, we didn't want to spend money in the offseason to get another starter. And you can always trade that starter. You can overbuy in the offseason, load up your team. And if you don't need them, you can then you have a position from strength, right? And they choose not to. They choose not to do that. They could have signed Soroka.
Right.
In the offseason. He was available. It's the ideal guy, 1-year deal. There's a couple other 1-year deal guys that they could have gotten. They chose not to. So they got to live with it, their own strategy and their own decision-making, and then see what happens. But, hopefully that Wicks hits a hot spell here in the minors. He can come up and make a few starts. And Tyone comes back fresh. And Assad, to me, is huge. If Assad is healthy and he's fresh, he could be a real weapon in the bullpen. I don't think he's great as a starter, but he could be in the bullpen. He could be a really strong guy in the bullpen. So we'll see. Those are the things we can hope and pray for as fans. But it would have been really nice to get a Keller and a Gallen, in that rotation without giving up. Why didn't they give up Triantos and Alcantara for him? It's probably because they didn't want him. That's the fact.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, I agree with you on that. I'd probably be in that same boat. I like Triantos better, but you got to get on base. You got to walk, even if you make a ton of contact. And then, I don't know. I think Alcantara is good, but I don't know.
Why didn't the other teams want Alcantara, Triantos, Wicks package for someone that we could use right now?
Well, Franklin,
I bet you that package was offered and nobody wanted them.
Yeah, I didn't hear. I wasn't hearing either one of those two names with the people I talked to. Eric gave him a D-, a 61%, and I think he parrots the thoughts of a lot of Cubs fans, right? Sign Jet again just to get nothing of value at the line is such a Cubs thing to do. Look, I've been a Cubs fan forever. Just like you, Naren. Like there is a portion of the population of us that feels just like Eric today.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we kind of build this all up. I was kind of annoyed with over the last week, just waiting for this deadline because it's just silly to me. I mean, we were playing the Brewers this week. Why don't we make these moves a month ago? And everyone's just waiting for this deadline. So yeah, I just think that this is who Jet is. This is how he operates. He's very committed to his process. The organization has their views on their own players. He's not AJ Preller. AJ Preller doesn't have a contract after this year, so who knows what he's going to be, where he's going to be going. Right? He just depleted the Padres
system away again.
I mean, there's all these memes running around Twitter. There's no one left in the Padres minor leagues, so that's fine. That's their call. One thing I noticed is that when your farm system's depleted and you want to make a deal, they'll take your crappy prospects. But when you have a good farm system, you don't want to give any of them up.
Yeah, right. Well, that's true. Hey, there's my man, Joey, Beers by Ivy. Good to see you, brother. He gave him a C, but we got, what we needed at the deadline. I mean, look, we did hit those spots. I mean, it's not like, it wasn't.
Castro and Soroka were good moves. If they were combined with other, top tier guys, we would have been really happy. But Soroka and Castro, we really needed those two guys. But it would have been nice to have more. I think that's why we're underwhelmed. And there was all these rumors, right? The Twitter rumors about Gore and Keller and Gallen, these guys. I mean, it's crazy to see like certain teams that don't sell. Like the Royals didn't sell. The Angels don't sell. It's silly to me that they don't sell, but we could have got Verlander or something like that, but we didn't even want that.
This is a great comment here. And basically, Rangers gave up their number 5, 9, and 13 prospects for Merrill Kelly. Cubs were in this. They were talking to the Diamondbacks. I'm surprised the Diamondbacks didn't give up Gallen. I'm really shocked by that. I thought that maybe the Cubs would take Gallen and Merrill Kelly. I bet you there was a conversation about that. They were in the sweepstakes for Suarez, and then they didn't get any of it. The Suarez went to Seattle, who's just had trouble scoring. They just got a lot better offensively. And then when Kelly went to the Rangers, I think that's where the Cubs probably missed out on some other opportunities, because I guarantee you they were in there trying to figure out with the Diamondbacks and just ran out of time, But, who knows how that goes. I think it was going to be Jackson Wiggins, and they probably wanted Moises Ballesteros and maybe somebody else, because that's who they were asking me about. And I think that that would have been a pretty high price for a rental. But then at the same time, Merrill Kelly would have been someone you could have put right at the top of your rotation.
Yeah, and the Rangers are, they're at the end of they're not even in the wild card, I think. They're tied maybe or one game out or of the last wild card spot. So it's kind of surprising that they would give up that much. They have a pretty good pitching staff already. So I'm surprised they would give up that much for for these guys. I'm surprised. But Chris Young's a wheeler and dealer. He's going to go for it. Good for him. I saw one of the names, Mitch Pratt, He looks like a pretty good prospect. I don't know who the number 5 was. I don't know if that Mitch Pratt was later, like what the rankings were. Good for them. They're going for it. Cubs feel pretty good. They have the second best record in all of baseball. So they're just going to go with the guys they have.
Yeah, funny to say that too when, you're in second place. But I still, guys, I'm not buying Milwaukee. I think they're playing great baseball. I got a lot of respect for playing the game the right way. I just think the Cubs have better players long-term than them. And I think the Cubs need to worry about building their team and doing things the way that they do it and get into the postseason and then see what happens. I mean, worried about matching up with Milwaukee right now to me just isn't a big priority. I'll say this too, that I feel like the Cubs need to go ahead now and start bringing up some of these young players and let's see what they can do. Jackson Wiggins is a guy who can help them today. And they have just totally slowed him down just in case they were going to trade him. It's time to ramp him up and get him to the big leagues because he can get outs there right now, maybe in the bullpen, and then you work him into the rotation. It was great to see Ben Brown look the way that he did last time. If he doesn't start getting it figured out, they're gonna forget about him or move him to the bullpen. I can see him kind of like ramping up his game. The determination's there. I think Cade Horton's going to be an excellent starter, and you're starting to see that. I've said that for how many years now? 3 years. I told you guys I think he's Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor of this generation, and I'm standing by that. And maybe if that's what happens, then all of a sudden, you put him in the top 3, and you feel like, hey, man, maybe he gives you a chance to win some big games. But I like the offense. And adding Castro to it is only going to make us better. The bench felt like over the last month or two that it wasn't even there. I mean, every time Brujan came into a game, he was like Brujan the Butcher. I mean, like he could just not catch the ball. And I'm going to tell you this. Why is I don't play that much. I'm in here and it's like live bullets. Okay, man, I was glad to see him get released. Birdie, he's got a limited skill set. Tucker, I told you guys, I feel like he's a cheerleader. I really like him, but he can't play the field anymore. His bat is not as good as some of the guys you can bring up from the minors. So it's time to infuse that young talent, Joe Madden style, and get behind these guys and give them some confidence and see what they can do. Can you imagine, like, if Kyle Schwarber was with this organization now instead of with Joe Madden? Are they bringing him up going, hey, let's see what this guy can do? He was in Double-A and he went straight up. Owen Casey's more prepared to be a better all-around hitter than Schwarbs was when he got called up. And now the guy's going to hit 500 home runs and maybe be a Hall of Famer one day as a slugger, right? I think Casey can do that for you. We saw Ballesteros, like the guy's a pure hitter. You're going to love the way that he works the ball around the field. I don't know where he plays position-wise, but the bat plays, and I think that's super important. And then maybe we'll see what else is in this system that can jump up and make an impact. But sometimes your best trades aren't the trades that you make. It's the trades that you don't make. And who knows, maybe Jackson Wiggins is one of those guys who emerges as help now. And then maybe he's in the rotation next year because there's people that feel like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've only seen Jackson pitch at one time in that minor league game in spring training. I was really impressed with his body and his mechanics and his stuff. I'm excited to see what they do with him now. Will they move him to the bullpen, move him up to AAA, let him get like 4 or 5 AAA outings in, and then bring him up, and just like see what he's got. Or they wait till September, things like that. And yeah, I agree with you, Casey, Ballesteros. I would rather see them on the bench, mainly because I think that you want a bench that can start multiple games in a row, give the guys breathers, individual guys breathers, and then keep them fresh. So then when they come off the bench, they can do something. And don't worry about this righty-lefty stuff. I mean, I know it's an issue, but I don't want to see Turner anymore. Birdie's got to go. Castro's great. He can play. Castro literally plays sub for every guy on the field except for first base and catcher. So then he can stay fresh, give all these guys a break, and let them come off the bench, in the right matchup. I think that's going to be good for the team in August. But we got to get back in the first place. We got to get back in that top 2 seed and then see where it goes. I think Brown's going to move to the bullpen. I think that'll be good for him. I think Horton might even move to the bullpen just to get a break in the rotation, just to get a breather, save some innings at some point as well. But the next 4 weeks are big. They got that 5-game set against the Brewers, and that's going to help determine how the rest of the season plays out.
Please like and subscribe, guys. Thank you for being part of the channel. And if you're watching for the first time, thank you so much for being here. Try to put a show out every day. And again, not just a team that I cover. This is a team I have a passion for that you'll find out like you guys do. I love the Cubs, and I don't care about what your opinion is. You're entitled to it. That's what this is all about. Darren and I don't agree on everything. I just know him from the comment section. Paul Sullivan was a guest talking about Ryne the other day. He's got his own opinions on stuff. You guys in the comment section have your opinions, but that's what makes this a fun place to hang out, is that we can all get together here and talk about it. Billy gives them an F- with these deals. Stewie, I love that name, Stewie Greenberg. 100% epic fail, Jed. Rogers is okay, but no starter is ridiculous. Soroka, not the answer. I got the feeling that potentially could be it. I mean, we're going to see what he does when he goes out there. I wonder, when I think about this Cubs rotation, Colin Ray, it's like the minute you think Colin Ray is a pitcher that has an earned run average of under 5, he makes you realize that, no, he's got a 5 ERA for a reason, like over the course of his career. Now, he gets a lot of wins because when he has his good games, they're normally really good. But then, it's like when he struggles, they're really bad. So, you talk about those two guys being potential answers for the Cubs, and then, obviously the rest of those deals that are there. And then I'm going to let you talk a little bit. But they also failed. They don't have a third playoff starter. What do you think the rotation would be if you're talking about this team? And, and kind of what the rotation would be right now? Let me find you. There you are. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that the rotation is going to be Shota, then Boyd, and then it's going to be Tyone, and then probably Horton. But also remember, in the playoffs, it's going to be like 4 and a third, 4 and 2/3, maybe if they have a big lead, 5. And then it's going to go to a bridge guy like Brown or Soroka or Assad, or maybe even Wiggins or Wicks, whoever. And then it's going to be the 1-inning guys. It's going to be totally different how they do the playoffs. So, ideally, and then the first series is 3 games if we don't have the bye. So that's going to be all hands on deck, right? So I think it's hard to project. Now the 7-game series, we have to play 5 games in 6 days. That's very different, right? Because you got to save these guys' arms to get through the series. I don't think the Cubs are really prepared for that, but they'll figure it out when they get there. On paper, who knows, right? Like Tyone could go, if the offense really clicked in a game, Tyone could go 6 innings. If they're up 8-2, then just leave Tyone in there.
Right.
And then he can save the bullpen. Let's say Boyd goes 3 1/3, and then Brown comes in for 3 innings. That's 6 1/3. And he faces the lineup one time. But that can happen too, right? Well, and then you only need 2 guys to finish the game.
Well, but he's right. I just, one of the comments was if they have Colin Ray as the as your third starter, you're doomed. And that's kind of what you hope, is that, maybe that's your answer there, is that you don't have Colin Ray as your third starter. And because of that, you feel better about things. Well, with Soroka or with Tyone or something.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, these guys aren't going to pitch 6 innings in the playoffs. They're going to pitch 2 times through the order. And there might be even an opener because Tyone stinks, in the middle of the order, right? So they may go with an opener, then bring in Tyone in the second to get face the bottom of the order. So the sequencing, and you got to understand these front offices. Our front office definitely thinks that they can outsmart a better team. Right. I mean, all these front offices think that, and I know ours does as well.
And that's it. All right. Well, look, it's been fun hanging out. The trade deadline is here and it's gone. We didn't make the moves that we thought we were going to make, but going to be interesting. Everyone
in the chat that's upset, we're all going to watch tomorrow. We're going to watch on Saturday. Rhino game, Rhino tribute game.
Right.
We're suckers. It's a curse being a Cub fan sometimes because it's, it consumes your life. And that's just the fact of the matter. We're super fans.
Yeah, we are. I mean, like in like the one comment, it's like such a Cubs thing to do, and I totally get that. It's like 2016 was the first time that we didn't blow it, and we almost did in Game 7 when we took.
I was at Game 7. It was the most Cub thing ever when we gave up that homer to Rajai Davis.
Just like, hey, yeah, but
thank God for Ben Zobrist.
Yeah, it shouldn't have even got to that. Hey, guys, thank you all for being here. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, be part of the channel. There's videos out on all the players that the Cubs got. And then, we'll be back at it again tomorrow, recapping everything there. And thank you. I said, hey, come for one segment. You end up doing an hour, so appreciate it. I just had a good time talking to you and appreciate all you guys as well. So thank you so much. And again, condolences to Margaret and Rhino's entire family, to all of us that love Rhino and miss him. I know you mentioned the everyone wearing 23 on Saturday. Heartbreaking to lose Rhino. God, I miss him.
It's really heartbreaking. Ryne Sandberg was my first favorite player. 1989, I became a Cub fan that summer. I just got really into the Cubs with them being on TV in the afternoons, and it just changed who I am. My phone number ends with 2827, which is Cubs. I'm a super nut. But yeah, Ryne Sandberg means a lot to me.
Did you have to request? Did you have to request that special number?
Yeah. Back when you could request it when you got a new phone, you can request it saying, "Hey, can I request the last 4 digits?" And I got it. And I'm a psycho. Obviously, I'm sending Mick Excel spreadsheets of of the roster construction for the next 3 years. So yeah, it's a curse. But yeah, Ryne Sandberg was my first favorite player. He was an amazing player. He means the world to me. It's so sad for his family that he was taken so soon from them and his family and friends. And we won't get to see him and share in our Cub fandom with him over the next 20 years because he had a lot more life to live.
No, I know. I still can't believe it. I mean, it's just shocking, but
I just can't believe it that, my dad had cancer 20 years ago and he's in remission. He's 81 this year and he's still with us. I just find it shocking that they couldn't, that his cancer wasn't treatable. Yeah.
I know prostate cancer, but once it metastasizes and moves through your body, it turns into other stuff. But God bless.
It's really sad. It's really sad because he was looking good a year ago from post-treatment, and I thought he was going to have a long way to go.
Oh, wow. Cubs just DFA'd Ryan Presley.
We kind of saw that coming, right?
Yeah. That's a disappointing trade right there. Anyway, we'll update you in the morning, guys. Please be a part of what we're doing. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you for being here, and go Cubs. All right, bro.